Okay, so today marks the beginning of the new grill station. We had to pull the old one out because of our septic system install. So now I'm gonna start working on something that works a little better with the trellis up there. We're gonna add another little trellis down here. So today's the beginning. We're gonna start with the hard, nasty stuff and then work up into the better, more fun carpentry. First step is building the platform a little bit bigger to give us a little more space up there for the grill. Then I had to dig the holes 32 inches down minimum. I like to mix the concrete right in the hole. It's just simpler. So you just kind of put the bag of concrete in there, add water and mix it. You can see again, the next one, pat it down, make sure it's solid. Sometimes I even add a little bit of stone on the bottom of these holes, just so the hole will drain and won't rot the bottom of the board out. After everything's leveled, I always give it a good eye. Make sure that it's straight, right down the line. That's my final check to make sure things are just right. So I'm using cedar tone wood on this project. This is a new material that I've been using for a couple years now, but Menards carries it. It's a brown toned treated wood, which is really nice. As you can see, they have different dimensional lumber. Not all of the sizes, but they carry most of them. It just looks a little nicer, especially if you're gonna let it sit for a while. You could potentially not stain it or do anything to it, and it's gonna always have kind of a brown tone to it, which is really nice. So that's what we're using for part of this project, just mainly for the look. It's also a yellow pine, so it's a little bit stronger too, which is kind of nice. Now time for the fun stuff. So what I did is I traced the profile of our old trellis onto this piece of cardboard, and then I'm cutting that out to use as a template for all of our new tails for the decorative pieces on the trellis. Once I have that template, the first one, then I just have to kind of reverse and repeat. I need 6 of these total. It's a lot of jigsaw. Make sure your blade's really sharp, and you just take your time, go through methodically and cut the pieces. Next step, I use my chop saw here to just clean up the straight edges. It's really easy just to clean them up. The jigsaw's not always perfect on straight edges, so I just went through and cleaned them all up. After we get done cutting everything, the next step is just going through and sanding the edges. You'll see this throughout the project. I make sure that I sand everything really well, takes the edge off, and it just looks better. After the pieces are made, then what we do is we go through, I measure up, and I start to level these pieces off. These are the first part of the pergola, and will hold up the verticals. So the first step is getting these just right, level, in the right spot. Back to cutting more with the jigsaw. This is for the horizontal large pieces. Again, with the jigsaw, nice and straight cuts, very important. Take your time, keep the blade sharp, and then clean it up with sandpaper every time. So now what I'm doing is I'm measuring out the distance between the posts from down low. That way, when I raise this thing up, it'll be nice and true to itself, because down low is perfect, it's all attached, so it's spaced right. If I raise it up, it should also be nice and true. Next step is the curves on the underside of the horizontal beams. And what I'm doing right now is I'm adding the depth of the curve up top and putting a screw in. Then I'll mark the 2 far extremes and be able to run a board between them that actually gets our arc for us. So after I made the cuts, I went back through and sanded everything. I'd like to knock the edges off of it all, so it just kind of cleans it up. Take care of the cross grain, smooth that out. But in general, just kind of knock the sharp edges off. But as you can see, we kind of got the whole thing done. Cutting these big long curves can be a little tricky. Just got to go real slow, kind of just focus on it, and with the jigsaw. It was a pretty nifty way on how to cut the arch in terms of using another board to sort of bow it. That's common. I do that a lot for archways. It works pretty well. Probably not perfect, but it works pretty well. So today is install day. So we're gonna assemble this whole thing. I've got it kind of roughed in. The next real thing is to basically come in here, level that out, make sure all the pieces are working right, are all nice and level, and then just attach it. I normally attach it with screws temporarily, and then I'll go back in once the whole thing's finished and anchor it permanently. But for right now, it's all about keeping the post level, keeping the verticals and horizontals all just level, nice and square, nice and true. I tack them in and I go from there. So let's see what happens. Next step is cutting the top 2x4s. So here I'm cutting just simply a 45-degree angle. I cut it straight and I nip the corners off. Once I have that first template, then what I'll do is I'll go through and make them. I'll make all 24 of them for this. So it's just a little bit of a tedious process, but you just go. I pre-attached these angle irons that I got from Menards onto the 2x4s. That way when I plop them up top, I can just set it tight to one side and then easily go to the other side and screw it on. So that sort of sets my marking. I also pre-marked and pre-spaced this up top. So then at this point, once I'm on the ladder, I can just kind of assemble. Next step is putting on the skirting, essentially, around the space. I wanted to not do the wire rope like I have in the rest of my railing. This kind of hides the backside of the grills and just gives us a little more privacy, so you're not looking at a bunch of stuff. But this is a really simple system with utilizing 1x8s and 1x4s, keeping an 1.5 inch space between them, goes really fast, and eventually this will go all the way down and cover around the bottom of the deck as well, and keep varmints out and whatnot. So it's a really nice look, pretty easy to put together. Next step is sanding the whole top rail. I really like to hit the edges again. In this case, I'm really taking it down with the belt sander and smoothing it all off, since we're going to be using it as a topper that you touch with your hands a lot. So I hit it with the belt sander, and then I go through by hand and do the final little touches with good old-fashioned sandpaper. I love just doing that. It just sort of smooths it all out and really gives it a finished look. Well guys, that finishes up the pergola. This thing is really a fairly easy build. There's a lot of work with the jigsaw, a lot of cutting, but other than that, it's pretty easy, and I would say most anybody can do it as long as you know how to use a jigsaw and a few basic tools. So give it a shot. You know, I don't think it's that hard, and I think pretty much anyone can try it. So that wraps it for Lake Warrior. You know, we've got a lot of projects coming your way this summer. Please smash the like. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. The more people that subscribe, the more it motivates me to get up and make these videos. So I really appreciate you guys watching. Don't forget to comment if you have any questions at all. I'll help to clarify what your questions are. And yeah, keep watching Lake Warrior for more great projects like this one.